She was headstrong and never backed down from a fight.
And you think she found one in Orchid Grove?
Oh, I know she did.
What do you think happened to the Orchid Grove trio?
That's the million-dollar question.
Isn't the reward set at 20 grand?
Uh-huh. The $20,000 question.
They will be found near water. Their shoes will be lost to them. Their clothes tattered and well worn by the devilish hands of fate.
Well, it has been almost 8 years. Their clothes would be almost non-existent by this time, would they not, if they had been in the water all this time?
But have they been? That's the question, isn't it?
I just want to know what happened to my beloved.
I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Manicure. Manicure specializes in men's grooming products from the waist down. Their electric bush trimmer comes equipped with a light and is waterproof, so you never need to worry about any nicks or cuts while you freshen your hangers or your bay for your significant other. Talking about freshening your designated areas, for this month only, every Manicure bush trimmer not only comes with a sleek designer travel case for the modern man on the go, but it also comes with a free bottle of both Manicure's best-selling fresh line products, the Taint Scrape and the Mint Fresh Ball Dip. That's right, for the low cost of $29.99 plus shipping, you can not only trim back the ears, but also exfoliate your taint and keep your balls and your significant other's breath minty fresh. That's Manicure, and use the code TOMTAPES at checkout. That's THOMTAPES, all one word, at checkout. It was a cool midwinter afternoon when the town of Orchid Grove gathered for Robert Bobby Shaw's funeral. He had lay on the floor of his hallway for over a week before his body was discovered, so it was a closed casket affair. In attendance was his daughter Kara, who he had not spoken with in close to a decade. Also in attendance were Dale and Thomas South. They were well known in the community for their illegal activities. Some have questioned if those activities were responsible for the disappearance of Dale and Kara on that very day. I hadn't managed to attend the funeral as I was investigating the strange new visitors we had to the town. A Scottish family staying in the woods, out of sight but not out of the minds of the town's residents. I'm on my way to where the cabin stood before that fateful day, nearly 8 years ago. It was up that steep incline that I found the local kids spying on the family. I presumed they were doing as young boys often do and were trying to watch the lady of the house below getting undressed or in the shower. However, what we all saw that day was far more intense and mentally scarring for all. Last week, I sat down with Maisie Keener to talk about the disappearance of her best friend, Kara Shaw.
She was so powerful when she first came to stay with me in Noir City. She was full of rage at how things had gone down in her hometown, but she had focused that into her efforts to make a life for herself in the city away from all of that.
When she was accused by some of another young man's disappearance, not far from where she was last seen herself almost 8 years ago.
I think it was because her father didn't believe her story that drove her to leave. She idolized him, even if she couldn't allow herself to believe that. So when he turned his back on her, she was devastated.
Did she confide in you over the years what had happened back then?
No, and I never asked. I knew what I needed to know about her. The Kara I knew could not do what she was accused of doing, period. Her problem was getting in with the wrong crowd. That plagued her even after she arrived here.
What do you mean? Did she get into trouble in the city too?
You've met her boyfriend Hunter, right?
Hunter Murphy, Kara's significant other. He's been a frequent target for internet sleuths over the last 8 years. His behavior when he arrived in Orchid Grove after her disappearance was not what many believed would be the behavior of a loving partner under these circumstances. Footage of him often gets compared to the now infamous body cam footage of Chris Watts.
Kara, wherever you are, I pray you know I will find you, sweetheart. And you will get justice for all this. There's nowhere he can hide you that can prevent me from having you back with me where you belong.
Hunter Murphy speaking passionately there about the disappearance of his fiancée Kara Shaw. Now for more on this story, we have Chuck Nesbitt on the scene for Channel 13 News.
I'm here, Mary.
It's Paul, Chuck.
Sure it is, Nancy. I'm here at the very spot the trio were last spotted 3 days ago. There is no sign of struggle or of a crime of any kind. I genuinely believe they have eloped down south. We know how easy it is to get across the border.
If there's no signs of a crime, why is there so much police tape and forensic investigation going on behind you, Chuck?
Beats the hell out of me, Sally.
We could only hope, Chuck. We could only hope. Now it's Gabby with the weather.
Murphy is an interesting suspect for sure. He has a history of 911 calls made against him from neighbors concerned he was assaulting his exes.
Do you think he could have been responsible for the crimes in Orchid Grove?
Not personally. He has a strong alibi for the day in question.
What or who is that alibi?
I'm afraid, given this is an active case, I cannot answer that question. But believe me, it's rock solid.
So if not him personally, could he have hired someone?
The destruction of the cabin was obviously a professional hit. That is not in question. The disappearance of Shaw, South, and Campbell may or may not be connected to that.
The inhabitants of the cabin were outsiders. Why would anyone order a hit on them whose last name wasn't South, given the interactions they had been having with Dale and his crew?
Again, as this is an active case, I cannot answer as to what the Bureau's stance on that is. However, I personally have always suspected these two incidents were not connected in any way. The Campbells came to Orchid Grove with a purpose. That purpose, as far as I can tell, had nothing to do with Kara Shaw.
Did it have anything to do with the Souths?
No comment.
What about Thomas South? Could he have anything to do with the disappearances?
I believe he's guilty of a great many crimes, but making his son disappear is not one of them. He loved Dale like a son.
Because he was his son.
Well, yes, but not all fathers love their sons. Sometimes I think mine is a bit of a dick, to be quite frank with you. You'll cut that last part out, won't you?
Sure. I'm heading down to the last known whereabouts of Kara Shaw, Dale South, and Connie Campbell. The entrance to the woods which they entered, and some claim, never exited. Many amateur sleuths and psychics descended on the town in the wake of the explosion at the cabin and the disappearances. One of the most noted was television medium Kieth Laverne. I'm meeting him here today to discuss the case. Hi, Keith. Thank you for meeting me here.
My pleasure. Wish it was under different circumstances. What was this place known for prior to the disappearances? I'm getting bumped into a lot by beyonders like they're...
It was a known lover's lane.
That explains it.
What brought you to the case to begin with?
Oh, the FBI called me in on the case when they hit a stumbling point, lovely. I have worked closely with the Bureau for 30 years and solved over 100 cases for them.
What is your impression on what happened here?
A lot of awkwardly bad teenage sex, my dear.
No, I meant with Kara and the others.
I know what happened, my pet. They were lured into the woods and executed, one by one.
By who?
The better question is why. Dale and Kara had a shared past. That past came back to haunt them that day. The other girl was an innocent bystander, unfortunately.
You think someone would be crazy enough to kill Tom's son and leave his body in the woods?
Someone crazy enough to have crazy as a nickname.
Jean? But she was witness at the funeral by a dozen people. When Kara and Dale left, she was still there. And she was still there when the deputies turned up. How could she slip away without being spotted and get back wearing the same attire with no blood or dirt on them?
It's a small town, my dear. People lie. People cover for others, especially when they know their actions, however unholy, are morally justified.
Jean?
No. She was never a suspect. We have ample footage from the church security cameras that place her there during the times we believe the trio were last seen.
And Keith claims he was called in by the Bureau?
Keith Laverne is an entertainer, nothing more. We would as likely call him in to assist on a case as we would Big Bird or Donald Duck. Do you know Mr. Laverne's name is actually Alex Abrams? He used to be a minor league baseball player back in the 80s until he rebranded as a medium and conspiracy nut. I think he took too many balls to the head back in his playing days.
Why do you suspect Hunter is responsible?
He hides behind a fake smile, but it's not believable once you spot how dead his eyes are.
Elaborate.
Have you heard of the Duchenne Smile?
No, what's that?
The Duchenne Smile is an expression that signals true enjoyment. It occurs when the zygomaticus major muscle lifts the corners of your mouth at the same time the orbicularis oculi muscles lift your cheeks and crinkle your eyes at the corners. When Hunter Murphy smiles, just like most sociopaths, he only smiles with his mouth. It's copied behavior rather than true emotion.
You believe him to be a sociopath?
Oh, I know he is a sociopath. When they did couples counseling, the shrink told Kara to watch out as he was showing sociopathic tendencies.
According to the FBI, he has an airtight alibi for the day in question. How do you explain that?
Come now, do you think he would get his own hands dirty? He hired someone because he knew what would happen if she ever went back there.
And what's that?
She would reconnect with her ex, the only one guy besides her own father that she has ever genuinely loved.
After looking into the case for nearly 8 years now and having been all but excommunicated from my hometown for it, I have come to a startling conclusion. Hunter Murphy is a viable suspect in a very shallow pool of viable suspects. Just like Jean, Thomas South was on camera at the funeral during the disappearance of the Orchid Grove trio. He had the means to have them taken, but what would be the motive? Jean had the motive, but I do not think she could contain her rage enough to execute a perfect crime such as this one. I have come to the startling conclusion that I need to sit down with Hunter Murphy and see what I can learn from him, even though I may be sitting down with a killer. If you're looking for a great online fasting app, try DoorDash. DoorDash offers a unique way to build healthier habits to lose weight fast, no dieting needed. This is guaranteed long-term weight loss. DoorDash works in a similar fashion to a company with a similar name by offering a fast food app that you order from and then never receive said order. You get the rush of ordering that burger or pizza you really crave without the guilt of the after-eats bloat. So if you never want to receive your takeaway order ever, then you need DoorDash, the best fasting app around today. Use coupon code NOGRUB at DoorDash.com today and and get a 15% saving on your first month subscription. Before I sat down with Hunter Murphy for our climatic interview for this episode, I chose to try and ease my worry by talking to the one man who has always believed him innocent, Chuck Nesbitt, former roving reporter for Channel 13 News, now working for internet news source Right On News. Nice shot, Chuck.
You wouldn't guess my handicap.
Probably not. Thank you for meeting with me. I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to get your opinion on the Orchid Grove trio case.
Ah, fuck. That was all you. I've been hitting him 300 yards and more before you showed up.
Sorry.
Butts. There is no Orchid Grove trio case.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean exactly that. There's no case, no crime, no nada, par 4.
I don't think you said that quite right.
Yes, I did. I learned Spanish from my time reporting on the front lines.
Front lines?
Yeah, the U.S.-Mexico border, you idiot. The biggest war we're fighting right now? Anyway, to answer your idiotic question, there's no case because they simply eloped or made a run for the border. Look, she was a commie left-wing nut bar hippie. He was quite frankly pussy-whipped. Doesn't take a world-class journalist to work that out.
Good job, right?
You trying to be funny? Maybe I could bring out my friends Smith and Western and you could tell them a joke too.
Try to avoid the parking meter on your way out this time.
Motherfucker!
I finally made my way to the meeting point with Hunter. I've got to say, I'm more nervous than I expected I would be. I see Hunter up ahead. We decided to meet at Fool's Bar, a local favorite here in Orchid Grove, hosted by James Monroe.
Hi, Carl. Thank you for meeting with me. I really need to find her, It's been so long, and the cops around here are either drunks and losers or just simply losers.
We all feel the same way about Kara, less so the cops. What can you tell me about Kara's decision to return for her father's funeral? It couldn't have been an easy one.
It wasn't. I didn't want her to go. I knew it would be more trouble than it was worth.
In what way?
She was finally losing all her anger and becoming a normal, quiet little soul. She did not need to go dragging all that up again. Her father only reached out to her a few times while we were together, so how much could he really care if she attended or not?
I guess even after all that time, he was still her father, though. It was more about closure for her.
Closure's not a thing. It's the kind of bullshit Dr. Phil spoon feeds his snowflake audience every week. No, what she needed was to cut off all the negative influences in her life and focus on what was actually important.
What was that?
Us. Our lives, our future. The kids we talked about having, keeping our home in order, we were all she needed, not some stupid trip down memory lane, and certainly not her so-called friends like Maisie or any of the other people around here. Look at them going about their day like nothing happened. Most of them didn't even have the decency to attend the midnight vigil or the searches of the woods, right? All crooks, all hiding something, every one of them.
You didn't attend the vigil or a lot of the searches yourself. You also mentioned Maisie Keener. She
has a hard-on for me. She's out there somewhere swearing on her whore mother's life I did something to Carr, even though I was at a conference for work when it happened. She tried to get with me once when Carr was sleeping in the next room? She's a vindictive slut because I did not fall for her pathetically obvious flirtatious ways.
You must have suspicions on what happened to Carrie yourself, though.
I think that lunatic Dale South took her captive. He had always been after her, even when they were kids. He was always trying to get with her.
Weren't they sweethearts in high school?
I do not know where you heard such insane ramblings, but that is not factually accurate at all.
She wrote about him in her journal from that time.
She did not keep her journal.
Police found it at her father's home when they first investigated her disappearance.
Are you trying to upset me? My fiancé is missing, presumed dead, and you taunt me with a fabricated journal that could have been written by anyone.
I didn't mean to upset you. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this just like you are.
Spare me the sales speech. We both know you're only interested in downloads for your lousy podcast. What do you call it, Thompson Files? A collection of warped conspiracy theories and so-called true crime stories. How many people actually listen to this crap anyway?
Around 20,000. More since we're so closely associated with helping to solve the Markle King murder case.
Wow, you worked out a crook killed another crook. Your last name must secretly be Holmes. Well, listen here, Sherlock. If you're so clued up on this case, what do you think happened?
I think there's one thing that everybody seems to forget about from that time.
And that is?
What Jean saw in the woods only a matter of days prior to the disappearances. Couple that with the fact that there's been numerous missing persons cases recorded in this region over the last 30 years, including that of Jean herself. And you could argue the most logical solution is...
Oh, for the love of Christ, you were going to say aliens, aren't you?
It's either that, or...
Or what?
Or you had something to do with it yourself.
I was wondering when that little theory would rear its little head. As I stated earlier, I have a cast-iron alibi, but do not let that get in the way of a terrible story.
You could have hired someone else to do it while you relaxed in the knowledge that you had a cast-iron alibi.
Bravo, Mr. Thompson, you got me.
Wait, what?
With logic like that, it must be me, right? But here's the thing, if it was, what makes you think you or that little recorder of yours will ever see the light of day again?
Because I have something you do not.
And what's that, pussy boy?
A tab. James, I need your help, good buddy, old pal of mine.
You calling mommy on me, Carl? Real tough man you are. I will be seeing you.
Yeah, right there, Carl. Janet's busy at the bar with Jessup. Is this little cunt annoying you?
What did you call me? What did you call me?
I believe it was a cunt. We should probably scram for this wee prick wakes up, Carol.
Thanks.
Oh, and by the way, I may have added a few wee drinkies to your tab over there.
Thanks. I settled my tab and left Orchid Grove that night. I took all the evidence I had discovered to the local FBI office, but they were not interested. Was Hunter Murphy the real killer of Kara Shaw and her cohorts? Did they meet a more extraordinary fate? Only time will tell. For now, this is Carl Thompson signing off on another Thompson Files.